Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. And welcome back, my friends, to Secret Origins Month. As we continue our follow-up on stuff from previous years, it's time yet again to showcase a character who first premiered in someone else's book. Yeah, today's episode, as a result, is more a follow-up to the Hulk, who I think has shown up more times than Wolvie on this show. That's pretty surprising considering how frequent the guy appears in the Marvel Universe. There was a joke for a few years that Wolverine was technically active on 3 different teams at the same time and was all over the map. He was basically the Marvel Universe's equivalent of Batman with how many things he was doing all at once. The guy is so popular that he's gotten 3 spin-off movies from the X-Men, which when you think about it was barely necessary considering the first 3 X-Men movies were all about him anyway. But yeah, Wolverine. Why was he created? Like so many characters, it was a pretty unremarkable thing that got the ball rolling. In this case, Marvel Editor-in-Chief Roy Thomas asking writer Len Wein to create a character named Wolverine who was Canadian and was short. So naturally, when you think of all those elements, the first thing that comes to mind, bright yellow outfit with adamantium skeleton. I kid, of course. The claws were the invention of the artist behind the character, John Romita Sr. The character was going to have claws, of course, but the idea of making them retractable came from his desire to see practicality in design. To quote him, "I thought, if a man has claws like that, how does he scratch his nose or tie his shoelaces?" Which is kinda weird considering Wolverine has slip-on boots. There's a long-standing myth about the character's creation that he was meant to be a mutated Wolverine evolved into a humanoid appearance by Marvel villain the High Evolutionary. But Len Wein has denied that. It's possible that this was someone else's idea for the character, since while Len started with some basic ideas for him, it was other creators like Chris Claremont, Dave Cockrum, and John Byrne who did more with him in his history. One element that he did have was that the adamantium claws weren't supposed to be part of his bones or anything. They were part of his gloves, which were also supposed to be adamantium. In turn, Wolvie was also supposed to be a teenager. We wouldn't get a look at him unmasked in his original appearances, but when he joined the X-Men, he was supposed to be as young as everyone else. But then Dave Cockrum drew the unmasked Wolverine as obviously much older, and it stuck. And it certainly wasn't creepy that this 40-year-old was hanging out with teenagers. Before we get into the comic itself, I should note that technically this issue is not the first appearance of Wolverine. No, he actually first appeared on the very last page of Incredible Hulk number 180 to tease this issue. But there'd really be no point in looking at that as his first story, so we're going with this one. On that note though, let's talk about that issue to bring you all up to speed. The Hulk, trying to find some peace, heads to the Appalachian Mountains of Quebec. He's detected by the Canadian authorities, who dispatch Weapon X against him, but the Hulk in the meantime is summoned by a woman named Marie, whose brother was transformed by elder gods into a Wendigo, a flesh-eating monster. After studying the dark arts, she believes she knows a ritual that will cure him, but it means transferring the Wendigo spirit into someone else. And she plans to do it to the Hulk. Before she can begin the ritual, though, the Hulk gets into a fight with the Wendigo, which is only interrupted by the arrival of Wolverine. So let's dig into Incredible Hulk number 181 and see if Wolverine was still the best there is at what he does in his first appearance. The cover's great, though this is one of those cases where the logo takes up like a third of the cover, and thus everything feels a bit cramped. But what we do see is awesome. Wolverine busting out of some chains while fighting the Hulk, the Wendigo in the background apparently cheering them on. He's got $5 riding on Wolverine, kicking his ass. And wait, the sky is red! Oh god, you three, run! A DC Crisis event is about to start! He's here! The world's first and greatest Canadian superhero! Excuse me, I think Captain Canuck might have something to say about that. I've never read Captain Canuck. I don't know if it's any good. Anyway, we open with Wolverine leaping at the Hulk and the Wendigo. Or rather, at the space between them, because of the framing of this shot, it makes it look like he's actually going for the reader rather than the other two. If you freaks want to tangle with someone, why not try your luck against me? He's actually talking about a group of ants fighting over a piece of stale bread between the two. Instant recap department. Old Greenskin has been lured to Quebec, Canada, as part of a fantastic plan to cure the wild-eyed woods beast called the Wendigo. Will the wily Wendigo get its will withered? Well, why not? But where the Emerald Man Brute is concerned, yeah, I think Incredible Hulk was the better name to go with. Nothing is predictable, so instead of curing Wendy, the Hulk is embroiled in a battle with him. A battle that rages through the forest until this gaudily garbed gentleman intrudes upon the scene, claws bared, teeth clenched, his face awash with almost feral fury. Yeah, look at those completely clenched, unclenched teeth, and his feral fury of retracting his head into his shoulders like a turtle. Gaudily garbed, I'll give you. Granted, I guess garish garbs can be good or ghastly, going on gut feelings that get you to grin or groan. Wolverine goes after the Hulk first, mostly just riding on his back a bit. Stand still, little man, or Hulk will smash! If you stand still, Hulk will merely pulverize you! Sorry, Hulk, but seeing as how you're about 2 feet taller than I am, and how you outweigh me by about 100 stone, I'll just keep moving, if you please, because moving is the thing I do best. So when he's always proclaiming I'm the best there is at what I do, he's talking about calisthenics? Bah! Little man jumped around like a big rabbit! Like a Wolverine, if you don't mind, Hulk. And like a Wolverine, I've got claws. Forged of diamond-hard adamantium. Adamantium claws, a common feature of Wolverine's. Since he's having trouble cutting the Hulk's skin with said claws, for whatever reason, Wolverine decides to change his dance partner and attacks the Wendigo. And though you might think a battle between an 8-foot monster and a 5-foot 5-inch man would be a trifle one-sided, we assure it is not. It is, in fact, amazingly one-sided. Like, the short guy is shorter now. That's how this ends. Hulk doesn't understand. First little man fights Hulk, and now he fights Hulk's enemy? But if Hulk's enemy is little man's enemy, then little man is Hulk's friend. Hulk have problem with complex interpersonal relationships. Hulk comes to Wolverine's aid, and he decides to take advantage of that, even if he doesn't get why that's happening. Together, they're able to subdue the Wendigo, but due to his supernatural nature, they can't kill it. His claws only knock him out. It's an odd day where I have to say he was stabbed unconscious. After a moment's peace between them, Wolverine attacks the Hulk, once again to the poor guy's confusion. Puny little man! Hulk thought you were Hulk's friend! Hulk trusted you! But you betrayed Hulk! Attacked Hulk! Just like all the other puny humans Hulk has known! This is why Hulk have trust issues! Nearby, Marie and her friend George are watching, and George is not pleased. There, Marie, do you see what your madness has wrought? Your brother has fallen, perhaps mortally wounded, and it is all your fault! What's worse, Linkara is doing a terrible French accent, all because of your mad scheme! Marie thinks this is fine. They just saved them the trouble of knocking the Wendigo unconscious themselves, allowing them to drag him back to their cave to finish the ritual. Outside, the jade-hued juggernaut fights on, unaware of the terrible fate the maniacally obsessed girl has planned for him. Unaware of the gold and crimson splendor spread across his battlefield by the swiftly rising sun. If only the Hulk weren't fighting for his life, he could enjoy this Bob Ross painting he's traveling through. I didn't even realize it was night. Looking back, it's obvious. The moon is even hanging in the sky. It's just with everyone so brightly colored in these pages, it might as well be the middle of the day. We cut over to the Canadian military complex that dispatched Wolverine as they discuss whether it was a good idea or not to send him in. The government has spent a great deal of time, effort, and money developing that mutant's natural-born speed, strength, and savagery into the skills of a professional warrior. And despite the few kinks still remaining in his psychological makeup, I think we've done a pretty good job. In the last training session, he only maimed or killed 6 people. It's a real sign of improvement. He also notes that they've got a contingency plan, a commando squad to be dispatched if Wolverine doesn't take down the Hulk in the allotted 6 hours that he requested. Believe me, gentlemen, one way or the other, the Hulk is as good as finished. And 37 years later, puny humans, I've come to smash. The battle continues, with George still protesting this entire course of action, while Marie insists on continuing with the ceremony, using some kind of magic knockout gas that puts Wolverine and the Hulk to sleep. Conveniently, the two are also positioned almost right outside of the cave already, too. However, before they can drag the Hulk inside, they witness his transformation back into Bruce Banner. George finally says enough is enough. It was bad enough to transfer the Wendigo curse to the Hulk, but to an actual person is wrong and refuses to help anymore. You owe a debt to my brother, to me! Perhaps I did, Marie, but you'll take into account the price I've paid with my immortal soul for our atrocities. And the debt has been more than repaid. In full! But you forgot the sales tax! However, despite his confident remarks, George sits and ponders everything that happened, and that the transformation into the Wendigo is his fault. I have no idea if it is or not, just taking the comic at face value here. As such, he resolves to put an end to this the only way he can, stiffly moving into the cave, while Marie chains up Wolverine so he doesn't interfere. However, as she starts to drag Banner's body into the cave, he transforms back into the Hulk. As per usual, Hulk is unhappy. Animal Girl tricked Hulk! Knocked Hulk out! Hulk thought you were Hulk's friend, but Animal Girl is just another puny human. Hulk losing lots of friends today. Is Hulk just really bad at keeping friendships going? No! Hulk is friendliest one there is! However, before he can continue his ramblings against Marie, he spots Wolverine, who's also beginning to wake up. He wants to resume their fight, tossing Wolverine hard enough to shatter his chains, without any damage to Wolverine himself, shockingly enough, and the two resume their battle. Marie flees back to the cave, only to be greeted yet still by an awakened Wendigo. Marie, I'm beginning to think you're kinda crap at these sleeping potions. Her scream distracts our heroes, allowing Hulk to take advantage of it to knock Wolverine out. Again. Back in the cave, though, the Wendigo doesn't attack Marie. Instead, the thing gestures at what's deeper in the cave. And when she looks in, she sees her brother waking up on the slab. George sacrificed himself to the Wendigo curse to repay his debt. Oh, George, the debt you owed wasn't that strong. We could have set up an installment plan to repay it. She wants to know why he did it, and he can't answer, thinking only to himself that he did it because he loved her. Then turns, smashes through a wall, and leaves Marie to the cave as his human mind is soon subsumed by the Wendigo. The Hulk goes to investigate the cave, and so our comic ends with him finding a sobbing Marie, setting his hand on her shoulder in understanding. He is a simple creature, this incredible Hulk. There is so much he doesn't understand, like can openers or pants that aren't colored purple. But grief, despair, these are emotions he can recognize, and in his own clumsy way, try to soothe. So, lose boyfriend, huh? That bummer. So they stand together, the monster and the girl, both the victims of circumstances they could not hope to control, and both of them so terribly, terribly alone. Hulk alone because friends keep betraying him, so girl can't relate. This comic is pretty decent. As an introduction to Wolverine, it works well enough. Not necessarily to his character, but definitely as an opponent. It's not everyone who can take on the Hulk, and in this story, he basically fights him to a stalemate. It's likely Hulk would have eventually overpowered him, but he otherwise only wins because Wolverine's distracted. It's a pretty impressive feat, but for all the talk about how feral and wild and dangerous Wolvie is, he's very much a talker and doesn't really show off any kind of aggression or anger or anything like that. The The plot with Marie and the Wendigo is well executed, but what sucks is that despite his presence being kind of the driving force of Marie's plan, the Hulk is not actually actively involved in much of it. It's not a good sign for your story when, if you remove the main character, it would largely leave events unchanged. Sure, without him, it's likely George wouldn't have broken away from Marie and made a sacrifice, but given how he was feeling, it's entirely likely he would have done the same thing. But still, the artwork is great and the fight is good, so not a bad opening story for Wolvie. Next time, we close out Secret Origins Month with another jump in eras. To the Dark Age of comics. Because I guess this had to happen eventually. The first appearance of Deadpool. So, like, are the bullhorns necessary for the mystic ritual, or did she just add those for effect?